Let's say you're going to write an applet that's going to be used by other folks in their web browsers. You need to consider the version of Java installed in the web browser. Under different circumstances, applets have different audiences. One very common use of an applet is to provide an interface used inside a company. Some are for providing an interface to clients, others are for general use on the internet. The point is, in some cases, you'll have very specific information and even some control over the version of Java that'll be used to read the applets. In other cases, it can be any web browser and any old version of Java. There are lots of browsers out there, and the number is on the rise. There is Opera, Netscape, Mozilla, Conqueror, and more new ones every day. There are also browsers for several operating systems, such as the different versions of Unix and the Macintosh. This lesson is about the things that you'll need to consider before you release an applet into the wild. When you compile an applet into a class file or a set of class files, each of these class files is imprinted with some special identification numbers. The first 8 bytes of a class file are used to uniquely identify it as being a Java class file. In the world of Unix, a number embedded in a file for purposes of identity is called a magic number, and a Java class file has its magic number. Any number could have been chosen, but somebody had a sense of humor. When the first 8 bytes of any class file are displayed in hexadecimal notation, they spell the words Cafe Babe. Following the magic number are the major and minor version numbers. These are the numbers that can make a difference to you. These are the common revision numbers. For example, in Java version 1.4, the major number is 1, the minor number is 4. And here's what's important to you about that. A Java virtual machine also has a major and minor number, and a Java virtual machine will not attempt to execute a class file that is a later version than itself. For example, if the Java plugin in a web browser is version 1.4 and your applet is version 1.5, it won't run. But there is a simple solution to the version number problem. You simply tell the compiler to produce a version of the applet for an older version of Java, and you get to pick the version. You do that by compiling the applet with the target option like this. In this example, the class named MyApplet is being compiled as a version 1.2 class file. Actually, 1.2 is a pretty good version to choose because you have virtually every web browser that is capable of running Java with version 1.2 or later installed. Also, version 1.2 is the first of the Java 2 series, so it has most of the capabilities of the newest versions of Java. The only thing missing is some of the more advanced classes, and the odds are very good that you're not using any of those anyway. The second area of concern is not nearly so important. If you use different fonts, you need to use something that's likely to be installed in the browser. Of course, if your applet selects a font that's not installed, the plugin will simply use the default font, so your applet will still work. But it would be best if you could choose from fonts that have a high probability of actually being available in the target web browser. Certain font names are used in almost every web browser. If you expect to be doing a lot of applet work, you need to experiment with these names to see what happens. Some of these names will be the same font on some systems. For example, it's common to have serif and Times Roman be the same font, and on some systems, sans serif and Arial will be the same. Also, that last one, the Zap F Dingbats, it's virtually useless as a font. You could use it for decoration, I suppose, or if you wanted to cast an evil spell of some sort. Anyway, if you watch your version numbers and your fonts, everything else will pretty much be taken care of by Java. By the way, some browsers can't load the Java plugin, and some of the older versions of the Microsoft browser won't run Java under any circumstances. Those folks will need to update their browser to get Java running.